Every day, Lina had to pretend she didn't see the ghosts that walked past her. This wasn't something she chose, she was born with it. Some people might call it a gift, but for Lina, it felt like a curse. Seeing ghosts scared her, it was something she couldn't stop no matter how hard she tried. Lina managed to live with this strange ability. She stayed quiet about it and tried her best to ignore the ghosts. But everything changed when her best friend, Mira, was about to marry a ghost. This ghost wasn't a kind one. It was a wicked spirit, and Lina knew it. She couldn't ignore this. Lina's life had always been strange, even from the day she was born. When she was born, she cried, that was normal, but she didn't stop crying. She cried all night. The nurses told her parents that something was wrong. This is not normal, they said. Her mother and father were very worried. They loved their baby girl, but they didn't understand why she was crying so much. They took her home, hoping she would calm down, but that night Lina cried even louder. She didn't stop, not even for a moment. Her parents didn't know what to do. They thought maybe she was sick. The next day, they rushed her to the hospital. The doctors checked her. Your baby is fine, she's healthy. But her parents didn't believe it. How could a healthy baby cry so much? They tried everything, they visited other doctors, even traditional healers. Everyone said the same thing, your baby is normal. But Lina didn't seem normal. She cried every day, all day. She would only stop crying to eat or sleep, then she'd start crying again. Her parents were tired and confused. They wanted to help their baby, but they didn't know how. This was how Lina's early life went, cry, eat, sleep, and cry again. Her parents wondered if this was a sign that their daughter was different. But they had no idea just how different Lina really was. By the time Lina turned 7, her parents noticed something strange. They would walk into her room and find her talking to the air. When they asked, "Who are you talking to?" she would smile and say, "My friend." At first, they thought it was just an imaginary friend, but her behavior became harder to explain. Sometimes they would find her laughing, her eyes fixed on an empty corner of the room. Other times she would be crying, hugging herself tightly. When they asked why she was upset, Lina would only say, "My friend is sad." Her parents grew worried. They decided to take her to a psychiatric hospital. The doctor spent hours with Lina, asking her many questions. When she spoke to her parents, she said, "Your daughter is perfectly normal. She has a vivid imagination." But her parents weren't convinced. What they saw in their daughter felt far from normal. Lina was different. She loved watching horror movies. While other children screamed at the sight of ghosts, Lina leaned forward, fascinated. One day during movie night, she pointed at the screen and said, "I've seen that ghost before." Her parents froze, unsure of what to say. They laughed nervously and told her to stop joking. Lina spent most of her time indoors, avoiding other children. She didn't need anyone else because she had her friend. She gave her friend a name, Eris. "If I had a sister, that's what I'd call her," Lina said with a smile. Eris smiled at her, saying, "That's so sweet." To Lina, Eris wasn't just a friend. She was family. Every time they saw Lina smiling at the air or crying into her hands, her parents wondered, what was their daughter really seeing? Lina's parents grew more concerned as time went on. They didn't like that their daughter spent all her time alone, talking to her invisible friend. She rarely went outside and didn't play with the other children in the neighborhood. Her parents decided they needed to do something. They hoped that making friends with someone her age might change her. Their solution was Mira, the neighbor's child. Mira was a cheerful, lively girl who always seemed full of energy. She was the complete opposite of Lina, who preferred the quiet comfort of her room. Myra's parents agreed to let her visit Lena every day after school, hoping their daughter could bring Lena out of her shell. When Myra first showed up at Lena's house, Lena wasn't happy. She didn't want to play with anyone. She didn't understand why her parents thought this was a good idea. "I don't need friends," she told her mother. Her mother sighed. "Lena, you need real friends. Give Myra a chance." Reluctantly, Lena agreed to spend time with Myra. At first, their playdates were awkward. Lena barely spoke, and Myra did all the talking. "Let's play hide and seek," Myra would say, but Lena would shake her head. "How about we draw pictures?" Myra would suggest, but Lena wasn't interested. For days this continued. Myra didn't give up, but Lena didn't make it easy for her. Then one afternoon, something changed. They were sitting in Lena's room when Myra started telling a story. It was about a princess who could talk to animals and had a magical garden. Lena listened quietly at first, but as the story went on, she began to ask questions. "What happened to the princess?" she asked. "Did she save the garden?" Myra smiled. She did, but only because she trusted her magic. For the first time, Lena smiled back. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Over the next few weeks, Lena and Myra began to bond. Lena found herself laughing at Myra's silly jokes and looking forward to her visits. They played games, shared stories, and even created secret handshakes. Lena's parents were overjoyed to see their daughter opening up. For the first time in years, they felt like things might be okay. But while Lena's parents saw a normal friendship forming, Lena saw something else. From the very first time she met Myra, she noticed that there was something unusual about her. Lena had always been able to see things others couldn't, ghosts, shadows, and strange energies that surrounded certain people, and Myra was no exception. The first thing Lena noticed was Myra's heart, or rather, the lack of it. Where there should have been a heartbeat, there was only a glowing golden light. It shone brightly, almost blinding Lena the first time she saw it. She blinked, thinking her eyes were playing tricks on her, but no matter how many times she looked, it was always there, a soft, pulsing glow in Myra's chest. Lena didn't understand what it meant. She had seen many strange things in her life, but this was new. She didn't know why Myra's heart was like this or what it meant for her. Lena decided to keep it to herself. Neither Myra nor her parents seemed to know about the golden light, and Lena didn't want to scare anyone. She didn't want to ruin the friendship that was just starting to bloom, so she said nothing. As the days turned into weeks, Lena and Myra grew closer. Her closest ghost friend, Eris, had warned her, "Don't tell Myra about me," Eris said one day. Lena didn't like keeping things from Myra, but Eris was firm. "If she knows, everything will change." Lena argued at first. Myra was her best friend, they told each other everything. But after a long talk, Lena gave in. She promised to keep quiet. Years went by, and Lena and Myra stayed close. They shared secrets, laughter, and tears. By the time they were 21, they had grown into beautiful young women. Lena, with her quiet and mysterious air, and Myra, with her loud and cheerful personality, made the perfect pair. To anyone who saw them, they looked like two normal friends. But Lena's life was far from normal. One evening, while sitting on her bed, Lena finally asked Eris something she had been wondering about for years. "Why are you still here? Shouldn't you be in the spirit world?" Eris smiled faintly, her face sad, her usual glow dimming. "I can't leave," she said softly. "I wasn't buried after the accident. No one came for my body. I was just left there." Lena's heart sank. "What do you mean, no one came for you?" "I was an orphan," Eris replied. "There was no one to bury me, no one to mourn me. I've been stuck here ever since. Lena didn't know what to say. She felt a mix of sadness and anger. I'll help you, she said finally. We'll find your body and we'll make sure you're buried properly. Erisa's eyes lit up with hope. Do you mean that? Lena nodded. You've been there for me all these years. It's time I help you. Seeing ghosts wasn't easy for Lena. It wasn't just Eris. Everywhere she went, she saw them. They were in the streets, in the market, even in her house. Some looked like normal people, but others were terrifying, pale, hollow-eyed, and twisted in ways that made her stomach turn. She couldn't talk to them, couldn't even look at them for too long. If she did, they might notice her, and if they noticed her, who knew what they might do. The market was the worst place. It was always crowded with both the living and the dead. Lena pretended like she couldn't see the spirits. One afternoon, Lena and Mira were walking through the market. The air was thick with the smell of spices, roasted corn, and fresh fish. Lena tried her best to focus on Myra's chatter, but she couldn't stop glancing at the faces around them. She knew many of the market's vendors weren't alive, and being surrounded by them always made her uneasy. As they passed by a stall selling ripe mangoes, a tall, handsome guy walked up to them. His name was Darius, and he was the talk of the neighborhood. Every girl liked him. No one could resist his charm, and he knew it. His smile was bright, his confidence unshakable, and the way he carried himself made people turn their heads. Darius stopped right in front of Mira. Hey, beautiful, he said, flashing his perfect smile. Where have you been hiding all my life? Lena froze, her eyes widened as she realized the truth. Darius wasn't alive. His eyes, though charming to others, looked hollow to her. She could see his true form, a spirit. No. Please. She's not interested, Lena said quickly, her voice firm. Darius raised an eyebrow and smirked. I wasn't talking to you, he said smoothly. Before Mira could respond, Lena stepped in front of her. She's my friend, Lena said sharply, and I can decide for her. Mira stared at Lena, confused. What's wrong with you? Calm down, she said. She turned to Darius, a shy smile on her face. I think he's kind of cute, she whispered. Lena's heart sank. She wanted to scream, he's a ghost. Stay away from him. But she couldn't. Mira didn't know about her ability to see ghosts, and Lena wasn't ready to tell her. Instead, she grabbed Myra's arm. Trust me. He's not the right guy for you, she said. Mira pulled her arm away. Why are you acting like this? She asked, annoyed. Are you jealous or something? Lena shook her head, trying to stay calm. I just don't think he's a good person, she said. It was the best excuse she could come up with. Darius smiled. Don't worry, he said to Mira, ignoring Lena. I'll see you around. With that, he winked and walked away, disappearing into the crowd. Mira turned to Lena, her frustration clear. Why did you do that? He seemed nice. Lena sighed, trying to find the right words. You don't know him like I do, she said. Just trust me on this. But Mira didn't trust her. She crossed her arms and gave Lena a sharp look. You're just jealous, she said. You don't want me to have someone because you're always alone. Lena's chest tightened. She wanted to yell the truth, that she was protecting Mira from something dangerous. But how could she explain that without revealing her secret? How could she make Mira understand that Darius wasn't just bad news, he was something much worse? Instead of arguing, Lena stayed quiet. She let Mira walk ahead of her, chatting away about how cute Darius was and how she hoped to see him again. Lena followed silently, her mind racing. She had a bad feeling about this. She knew Darius wasn't what he seemed. As they left the market and headed home, Lena couldn't shake the image of Darius's terrifying form. He might have fooled Mira, but not her. She had seen too much to be tricked by a charming smile. Whatever Darius wanted, it wasn't good, and Lena was determined to stop him, even if Mira didn't believe her. Darius was not what he seemed. Behind his charming smile and smooth words was a darkness so old and powerful that it could bring destruction to everything. Long ago, the world faced creatures like him, demonic spirits that thrived on chaos and despair. These spirits roamed freely, leaving destruction in their wake. They were nearly unstoppable, feared by all who encountered them. But then came the ancient warriors. These brave men and women stood up against the spirits, wielding sacred knowledge and tools that could trap the demons in a realm far from the living world. The battle was long and brutal, but in the end, the warriors succeeded. Most of the spirits were sealed away, and the world knew peace again. The warriors then hid the keys to this spirit realm, knowing that if the seals were ever broken, the spirits would return, angrier, stronger, and more dangerous than before. But not all the spirits were trapped. One escaped the warrior's grasp, possessed a freshly dead body, and called himself Darius. He was cunning and careful, knowing that survival required patience. While his brothers and sisters were imprisoned, Darius remained in the human world, hidden but watching. For centuries, he waited, gathering knowledge about the living and planning his revenge. His goal was simple: search for who was holding the key, free the others, and bring an end to the kingdom. For years, Darius searched for the keys to the spirit realm. He scoured every corner of the earth, following every lead. But the keys were not physical objects, they were hidden in unexpected places, bound to pure energy. Finally, after all his searching, Darius found what he was looking for. The key wasn't a relic or an artifact, it was Mira. The glowing golden light in Mira's chest wasn't just strange, it was the key. The energy inside her heart held the power to break the seal and free the trapped spirits. Darius realized this the moment he saw her. The light called to him, a beacon of power he couldn't ignore. It was everything he had been searching for. But there was a problem. The energy in Mira's heart couldn't be taken by force. It was tied to her emotions, to her love. The only way to unlock the power was for Mira to open her heart fully to him, to fall deeply, truly in love with him. Only then could he claim the key. Darius didn't care about Mira, her laugh, her dreams, her kindness. They meant nothing to him. To him, she was just a tool, a means to an end. If he had to lie to her, charm her, and pretend to love her to get what he wanted, he would. And if taking the key meant destroying her, he wouldn't hesitate. If Darius took the key, Mira would not survive because it was her heart. Darius's mind raced with possibilities. The ancient warriors were long gone, and the knowledge they had used to defeat the spirits had been lost to time. The humans of today wouldn't stand a chance. And the spirits wouldn't just return as they were before, they would come back stronger, fueled by centuries of anger and hatred. But for now, Darius had to focus on Mira. He had to win her over, make her trust him, and plant seeds of affection in her heart. He would be the perfect man, charming, kind, and attentive. He would make her believe that he cared, that he loved her. And when the time came, he would take what he wanted. There was only one obstacle: Lena. From the moment he met her, Darius knew Lena wasn't like the others. There was something about her, an awareness, the quiet strength, that made him uneasy. She didn't fall for his charm, didn't laugh at his jokes. She saw through him in a way no one else had. Lena's suspicious eyes had followed his every move, and he could feel her unease. But Darius wasn't worried. He had dealt with obstacles before. Lena might be cautious, but she wouldn't stop him. No one would. That night, as the moon hung low in the sky, Darius stood in the shadows, his mind alive with plans. He could feel the whispers of the spirits from the other realm, their voices faint but insistent. They were waiting for him, urging him on. They needed him to succeed. "I won't fail," Darius said aloud, his voice cold and steady. "The key will be mine." He thought of Mira, her bright smile and innocent laugh. She had no idea what loving him would cost her. She didn't know that her heart was both her greatest gift and her greatest danger. Darius didn't give up. Day after day, he returned to Mira, his charm turned up to full power. He always seemed to appear at the perfect moment, flashing his dazzling smile and saying all the right things. "You look even more beautiful today," he would say. Or, "I was thinking about you all night." His words were smooth, his confidence unshakable, and Mira couldn't help but feel flattered. She had never met anyone like him before, so bold, so charming, so attentive. Yet, deep down, something held her back. Every time she started to feel her heart soften, she would hear Lena's warnings echoing in her mind. "Mira, he's not good for you," Lena said for what felt like the 100th time. Her voice was firm, but her eyes were filled with concern. "You don't know who he really is," Lena replied, her voice trembling. She wanted to scream the truth, to tell Mira everything, but she knew she couldn't. "Not yet." "Then who is he or her?" Mira demanded. "What do you know about him that I don't?" Lena hesitated. "I can't explain it," she said finally. "But you have to trust me." One quiet afternoon, Lena was sitting in her room, staring out the window, lost in thought. She had been feeling uneasy lately. Mira had been acting distant. Before she could delve deeper into her worries, a sudden loud knock on her door startled her. She rushed to open it and found Mira standing there, smiling brightly. In her hand was a small, fancy-looking envelope. "I came to invite you to my wedding," Mira said with excitement, giving the envelope to Lena. Lena froze, her heart sinking. "What?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I'm getting married to Darius," Mira said happily. "It's happening in 2 days." 2 days. Lena repeated, her voice shaking. She couldn't believe it. How could Mira plan such a big thing and not tell her best friend? Mira grinned. "I wanted to surprise you," she said. "You'll come, right?" Lena nodded weakly, unable to find the right words. After Mira left, she closed the door and leaned against it, her mind spinning. Her stomach felt sick as she thought about Darius. What did he want from Mira? Why was the wedding so rushed? That night, as the house grew quiet, Eris appeared. Lena quickly explained everything about Darius, the wedding, how little time there was, and her growing fears. Eris listened quietly, her face dark with worry. "I understand now why he's in such a hurry," Eris said. "He's close to getting what he wants." "What does he want from her?" Lena asked, though deep down, she already knew it was something terrible. "The light in Myra's chest is the key," Eris explained. "It's what he's been looking for all this time. If he takes it, she'll die." Lena's heart felt like it stopped. "But Mira hasn't fully opened her heart to him yet," she said quickly. "You told me that's the only way he can take it." "She hasn't yet," Eris agreed. "But she's close. She loves him. The only reason she hasn't given him her whole heart is because you've made her doubt him a little. That doubt is the only thing keeping her alive." Lena let out a shaky breath. "So if that doubt goes away, she's gone," Eris finished. The room felt colder. Lena's hands shook as she tried to make sense of what she had just heard. Then Eris spoke again, even more seriously. "There's something else you need to know," she said. If she kisses him willingly after they are married, even just once, he will still take her heart. She doesn't need to be completely in love with him for that. A kiss of the married couple is enough. Lena froze. A kiss, she said softly, her mind immediately thinking of the wedding. Weddings always ended with a kiss. It was sure to happen. She grabbed the wedding invitation and checked the date again. 2 days, she said aloud. That's not enough time. How could she prepare for a wedding and not tell me? Lena said, a frustration creeping into her voice. It wasn't her plan, Eris said. It was Darius's idea. He wanted to keep you out of the way because he knew you were making her doubt him. Lena clenched her fists. How do I stop him? She asked desperately. There has to be a way. There is, Eris said. But it won't be easy. The only way to stop him is to show his real self to Mira. His real self. Lena repeated. How am I supposed to do that? You'll have to figure it out, Eris said. If she sees who he really is, the light in her chest will send him to where the others were trapped. Lena felt overwhelmed. How can I do that in just 2 days? She asked, her voice breaking. I don't even know where to begin. Eris placed a ghostly hand on Lena's shoulder. You're stronger than you think, she said. You'll find a way. You always do. The night passed restlessly for Lena. She lay awake, staring at the ceiling, her mind racing. She had 2 days to save Mira. 2 days to stop a wedding that could take her best friend's life. The weight of it all pressed on her chest, making it hard to breathe. She felt lost, hopeless. She had too many questions and no answers. Suddenly, an idea struck her like a bolt of lightning. Grandma, she whispered to herself. Her grandmother, the oldest woman in the village, was still alive at 110 years old. If anyone knew about ancient spirits, it would be her. Without wasting another second, Lena grabbed her bag and ran. The sound of the wedding preparations faded behind her as she raced to her grandmother's house. The journey felt like it took forever, her heart pounding with urgency. When she arrived, she pushed open the door, breathless and sweating. To her shock, her grandmother was sitting upright, her old, wise eyes fixed on Lena as if she had been expecting her. I have been waiting for you, Spirit Seer, her grandmother said, her voice raspy but strong. Lena froze. Spirit Seer, she asked, her voice trembling. How did you know I could see ghosts? Her grandmother smiled faintly, her wrinkled face calm. This gift was not given to you by accident, she said. When a new heart carrying the key is born, the guardian is also born. You were chosen for this long before you even entered this world. Lena's legs felt weak, and she collapsed into a nearby chair. You mean you knew everything? All this time, she asked, disbelief filling her voice. Yes, my child, her grandmother said. That is why the gods have kept me alive for so long. I was waiting for this moment, though I didn't think it would take this long. A lump formed in Lena's throat. Then tell me, she said desperately. How do I save Mira? She's about to lose both her life and the key. Her grandmother reached under her bed and pulled out a small, old mirror. Take this, she said, handing it to Lena. Lena frowned, confused. I've already tried using a mirror, she said. It didn't work. Her grandmother shook her head. This is no ordinary mirror, she said. The spirits have learned to hide their true selves from regular mirrors. But this was forged by our ancestors with powerful magic that no longer exists. It will show what other mirrors cannot. Lena stared at the mirror in her hands. Its surface glowed faintly with otherworldly light. Go now, her grandmother said, her voice urgent. It's almost too late. As Lina stood to leave, her grandmother sank back into her chair, her breathing shallow. "Grandma, are you okay?" Lina asked, panic creeping into her voice. Her grandmother smiled peacefully. "My mission is complete," she said softly. "The gods kept me here to guide you. Now it's time for me to join my ancestors." Lina watched as her grandmother closed her eyes and took her final breath. A wave of grief washed over her, but she didn't have time to mourn. She clutched the mirror tightly and ran out the door, her feet pounding against the ground. The wedding music grew louder as she approached the venue. She ran with all her might, her heart pounding, whispering to herself, "I will save you, Mira. I won't let you fall." Lina could hear the village priest's voice in the distance. It was loud and serious. "By the blessings of the gods, I unite you both in eternal love." Those words sent chills down her spine. She struggled to breathe as she ran, holding the mirror tightly in her shaking hands. Tears rolled down her cheeks, blurring her vision, but she didn't stop. She couldn't stop. Villagers turned to watch, puzzled by her sudden rush. Dust flew behind her quick steps. Whispers followed her. "Isn't that Myra's friend? What's wrong with her?" But Lina didn't hear them. Her heartbeat was too loud, her thoughts racing faster than her feet. She reached the edge of the gathering just as the priest's voice rose again. "You may now kiss your bride." "No!" Lina screamed, her voice cutting through the air like a blade. Myra's eyes closed, her face calm and trusting, as Darius leaned in. But then Myra's eyes flew open. Time seemed to stop. Her gaze shifted past Darius, her breath hitching. She was staring at something or someone behind him. Darius turned, moving slowly, his charming smile fading. There stood Lina, just a few feet away, holding the old mirror. The mirror glowed with a strange, pulsing light as it reflected Darius. The villagers gasped as the mirror revealed his true form. His skin was pale and stretched tightly over his bones. His eyes were black pits that swallowed all light. His teeth were sharp, too big for his mouth, and his hands were like claws covered in rotting flesh. The mirror didn't just show Darius, it revealed the evil hidden within him. Centuries of darkness and despair swirled around him, visible to everyone. Mira stumbled back, her hands covering her mouth. She let out a shaky scream. What is that?" she cried, her voice cracking. "What are you?" The light from the mirror grew brighter, exposing even more horrors. Darius's so-called family, who had seemed warm and perfect, now appeared as ghosts. Their eyes were empty, their bodies translucent. They looked like shadows of who they pretended to be. Fear spread through the crowd. The happy gathering turned into chaos. People pointed, screamed, then moved away from the strange figures. "Run!" someone yelled. "They are ghosts." Darius staggered, his act completely gone. His black eyes darted between the mirror and Lina. "You," he growled, his voice inhuman. "You've ruined everything." The light from the mirror grew stronger. Darius let out a deep, chilling roar as his body started to change. His claws slashed at the air. The bodies of the other ghosts, stolen from the recently dead, began to fall apart. They crumbled into ash, filling the air with wails as the spirits were pulled back into the realm of the dead. "No!" Darius screamed, his voice echoing unnaturally. He reached for Mira, his decayed hand almost touching her face. But before he could, the mirror's light flashed one final time, covering him completely. And then he was gone. The village grew quiet. Only the sound of the wind moving through the trees could be heard. The glow from the mirror faded, and Lina lowered it, her hands still shaking. She looked at Mira, who stood frozen, her face pale. I didn't know, Mira whispered, her voice barely audible. Tears filled her eyes as she moved closer to Lena. I'm so sorry. I didn't listen to you. I didn't believe you. Can you ever forgive me? Lena's heart ached as she saw her best friend, broken and sorry. She stepped forward and hugged Mira. I forgive you, she said softly. I'm just glad you're safe. In the days following the wedding, the village was eerily quiet. The whispers of what had transpired spread like wildfire. People spoke of the glowing mirror, the monstrous form of Darius, and the courage of Lena. The once lively celebration had turned into a solemn reminder of the dangers that lurked unseen. Lena and Mira sat together under a large oak tree near the edge of the village. In front of them was a freshly dug grave. It had taken time, but Lena and Mira had found Erisa's body, hidden, decayed, and forgotten. They worked together, digging the grave under the shelter of the wide branches. As they placed the last bit of soil over the grave, Erisa's spirit appeared. She glowed softly, her face peaceful. Eris smiled at Lena, her eyes wet with gratitude. Thank you, she said. I can finally rest. Tears ran down Lena's face as she nodded. Goodbye, Eris, she said softly. Thank you for everything. Erisa's spirit began to fade, her light mixing with the sky. As her form dissolved into the air, the breeze carried her final words. You were always stronger than you believed, Lena. Mira placed a hand on Lena's shoulder. You saved me, she said quietly. You saved all of us. Lena looked at Mira and gave a small, tired smile. I couldn't let you go, Mira. You're my best friend. The two sat in silence, watching the sunset. For the first time in years, Lena felt a sense of peace. The weight of her gift, the burden of seeing ghosts, didn't feel so heavy anymore. She had faced darkness, fought against it, and won. She had protected what mattered most, even when it seemed impossible. True friendship means standing by those you care about, even when they don't understand your intentions. Lena's courage and determination remind us that doing the right thing isn't always easy, but it's always worth it. Protecting what's good and pure often requires sacrifice, but it can save more than just a single life, it can save an entire world. Lena and Mira's friendship grew stronger in the aftermath. They became inseparable, sharing their story with others to warn them of hidden dangers and to remind them of the power of trust and belief. Lena continued to see ghosts, but now she felt a renewed sense of purpose. She was no longer afraid of her gift. Instead, she embraced it, knowing she could use it to protect those she loved. The village began to heal, and life returned to normal. But in the quiet moments, when the wind whispered through the trees, Lena swore she could still hear Erisa's voice, a gentle reminder of the bond they had shared and the journey they had overcome together.